I'll call this meeting to order. This is a public hearing, which is a bit different than what we typically have for a council meeting. So I want to make sure that people understand, both our council and our guests in the gallery, the procedure for tonight. So this is a public hearing for the municipality of the District of Lunenburg. And the public hearing deals with municipal-wide land use project, which is the repeal and replacement of Municipal Planning Strategy 035 and Land Use Bylaw 049. And it's Thursday, June 25th, 2026. So I will call this public hearing to order. This is a public hearing at which time Municipal Council will receive both written and verbal presentations from citizens in attendance concerning the proposed municipal-wide land use project, which involves, as I said, the repeal and replacement of Municipal Planning Strategy Bylaw 035 and Municipal-wide Land Use Bylaw 049. At this time, I'll call each of the council members for the official record. So if we could start with Councillor Reinhardt.
Councillor Reinhardt.
Councillor Oiko.
Councillor Hubley. Councillor Moore.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Burns.
Councillor DeLong. Deputy Mayor Vino.
The reason we do that is that in order to vote on any of the decisions that will be made later this evening, you have to have been present for the public hearing. I do want to take a minute just to review what the agenda will be for tonight and to also outline, if you wish to speak, the procedure that we follow for that. The purpose of the hearing is for council, as I said, to receive public comments, both written and verbal, concerning the proposed repeal and replacement of the municipal planning strategy and the municipal land use bylaw. The hearing agenda is as follows. The staff will make a presentation on the proposed municipal-wide land use project. There'll be written and verbal presentations from the public will then be received, and a review of the next steps in the process will follow that, after which I will declare the public hearing closed. And then council will have a meeting immediately following the hearing to further discuss the input we received tonight at the public hearing and any further considerations that council members have had regarding the land use policy since our last meeting when we had first reading. This process did begin for this council in March of 2025, and we have had extensive public consultations during the last 18 months. But we do know that in the last number of weeks since first reading, there have been other people who maybe weren't as aware of what we were doing that have brought forward concerns. So tonight will be the opportunity for us to capture those in the considerations that council will make. In the verbal presentations, if anyone wants to speak, it's important that you give your name and your address and direct all statements to me as the chair. You do have a limit of 10 minutes on your presentation, but once we go through all the speakers, we can come back and you can have a further opportunity to speak. At this point, I would ask staff to make a brief presentation on the amendments. Ms. Young, is it you that's leading this?
I just don't see the slides on the Good evening, everyone. My name is Rosemary Young, and I'm a Planner 1 with the Municipality of the District of Lunenburg. I'm joined by my colleagues Jeff Merrill, Deputy Director of Planning and Development Services, Ella Gindi, Planner 2, and Ezra Saunders, Planning Student. This presentation provides a high-level overview of the proposed municipal-wide land use planning documents. This project began because of provincial legislative requirements. In 2018, the province required all municipalities in Nova Scotia to adopt comprehensive planning documents and zoning for all lands within their boundaries. These documents must address the statements of provincial interest and the minimum planning requirements established by the province. And the statements of interest, provincial interest, relate to housing, infrastructure, flood risk, agricultural land, and drinking water. So what is being introduced? The planning documents include a municipal planning strategy and a land use bylaw. The municipal planning strategy represents the vision and policy for the municipality, whereas the land use bylaw represents the rules and regulations that implement that policy. And zoning represents how land is categorized. So how will this project affect residents and properties? All properties will be zoned. Zoning in existing planned areas will remain largely unchanged, and zoning rules can and will be changed over time as needed. So where are we in the process? This process has been ongoing since 2020 with lots of public engagement throughout. It has included the creation of 3 drafts of the planning documents, which have evolved over time based on feedback from the public, council, the Planning Advisory Committee, stakeholders, and staff. Council passed first reading of draft 3 of the planning documents on June 9, 2026. We held 2 information sessions after first reading, one on June 16th in council chambers and one virtual session on June 18th. The virtual information session was recorded and posted to the Engage site. We have also received written feedback from residents, which has been shared with you, councillors, for consideration. That brings us to today's public hearing. A public hearing is an opportunity for the public to share feedback with council on the proposed planning documents. Unlike engagement events, council can only hear feedback and ask questions for clarification. After the public hearing, council may choose to conduct the second reading on the same night. So now we'll shift to providing you with an overarching picture of the regulations that passed first reading. So there are 9 zones in total. The rural zones aim to protect rural character and agriculture. The environmental and recreation zones are intended to protect water and ecosystems in MODL, and the growth center zones are intended to support the continuation and growth of a denser mixed development pattern in areas such as Cookville and Osprey Village. There was a zoning change from draft 2 to draft number 3. In draft number 3, some lands previously proposed as rural agricultural potential were redesignated and rezoned to the mixed-use service zone or the rural general zone based on a water study. The municipal water study assessed both short-term development potential up to 10 years and longer-term potential 10 to 20 years, identifying where water and wastewater services can support growth. The green boundary shown represents the longer-term development area, and as a result, the growth boundary for draft 3 was updated to align with this longer-term development potential. The differences between draft 2 and draft 3 are illustrated on the screen. These revisions support the statements of provincial interest related to housing and infrastructure, particularly in Osprey Village, where significant capital and infrastructure investments have already been made.
In addition to the zoning framework, there are a number of general provisions in the land use bylaw that may apply to residents. For example, there is a 20-meter horizontal setback from inland watercourses and wetlands. Habitation of an RV is permitted for more than 180 days with a permit, and home-based businesses are regulated in the rural residential zone. How will this affect residents and properties? Existing uses and buildings can continue to exist without any need to change. These are referred to as lawfully existing uses in the documents. A legal non-conforming use or building, often called a grandfathered use, is still allowed and can be fixed, rebuilt, and in most cases also expanded. Future uses and buildings will need to follow the new rules. So now we'll give you an overview of the next steps. Here's a snapshot of where we are in the process. Following the public hearing tonight, the next steps would involve a second reading and provincial approval. Thank you for attending the public hearing. For more information, you can scan this QR code or visit engage.modal.ca/modal2040.
Thank you, and we'll go now to Ms. Gindi for the summary of the written submissions.
Thank you, Mayor. 8 written submissions were submitted on time, so by June 23rd until 5 p.m. And 2 additional submissions were submitted late, so they are not attached to the public agenda package, but they will be attached to the minutes. All in all, most of the correspondence was in relation to the rural agricultural potential zone and request for council to consider revising it.
And those emails were distributed to all the council members, including the ones you were received after the 5 o'clock. You did send those as well?
Correct.
Okay.
But on a public forum, those that were submitted on time are on the public agenda, and those that were submitted late will be attached to the minutes.
Right. Thank you. Now is the time for verbal presentations. So we don't have any particular order of how we receive those. So whoever comes to the mic, we ask that you introduce yourself and you give your address and then make the comments that you'd like to make. So the mic is open, and what did I miss? I'm seeing a little, oh, okay, thank you. Mr. Wenzel.
Yeah, my name is Richard Wenzel. I live in Mater's Cove. In 1751, Johann Lance and Johann Wenzel came from what is now Germany to Lunenburg County. And I am one of the end results of that. And I can't believe, as I've shared with some of you, that I have to even come here and defend this. I cannot believe the takeover of private land. You may not see it as that. I'm a forest technologist. I'm a graduate at Lakehead University, which means nothing. I'm an adult educator. I taught at NSCC in the Forest Resources Program for 9 years, Port Hawkesbury 1 year, the remainder of it here. I used to love Lunenburg County, but I am frustrated. I helped Casper Van Kessel back in the mid-'70s. His property that is now a golf course that this municipality had pretty much everything to do with what it is today. I'm not a golfer. I don't care who plays golf, who doesn't. But probably the only visible farm on the 103 that I can recall when the 103 was open from exit 11 to 12 in the mid-'70s. Now it's a golf course. Probably the most visible farm in this part of Lunenburg County was the Cook Farm. Now it's concrete and asphalt. And now you're telling people with private land, if they have an area that is zoned, I don't know, potential agriculturally, that they have to change what they can do with it and can't do with it. I came out to see Norma last Friday and I couldn't believe it. I haven't slept since. My wife must have thought I had a stroke or something. I said, let's leave Lunenburg County. Let's leave Nova Scotia. Let's get out of here. I can't believe it. Anyway, I can't talk. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wenzel. Is there someone else?
Hello, my name is Andre Terrio. I've been living at 79 Oatfield Road in Maitland for the last 10 years. My property is 10,000 square feet. The neighbors to the left has 15,069 square feet, and the neighbors behind me has 15,000 square feet. All three of us live on 40,063 square feet of land. That is less than 1 acre, which is 43,000 560 square feet. I am here tonight because one of my neighbors decided to keep roosters last year, along with his hens and turkeys, which I have no problems with, except the roosters that are about 30 feet from my bedroom window, because none of us have a backyard, really. The land is so small. Well, they wake me up every morning around 4 o'clock. That's an hour and a half before my alarm clock goes off. That's including weekends, every day, 7 days a week. Right now, there's no bylaw that restricts roosters. I'm asking you to reconsider a bylaw to help people in my situation. I'm not here to ban farm animals. I'm not here to ban farms. But somebody with no backyard is not considered a farm, especially when his backyard is also my backyard, basically. Again, just you guys are the people that have the power to help people that in my situation. That's why I'm here tonight, because there's absolutely nothing I can do on my own. Again, I want to specify that it's the roosters. I have no problem with all the other animals. Like, they don't make noise. I don't care how many hens they have. I don't care how many turkeys they have in their backyard. But one rooster is too many, that close to everybody else. And I'm not the only one in the neighborhood that complains about this. Like, everybody hears them. So I'm proposing a minimum distance or a minimum size of lot to have roosters. And again, I want to precise that it's only for roosters. Like, I don't care about the other animals. They don't bother me. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi there, my name is Suzanne Kutach. I live at 2168 Highway 208 in Hempford, and I live in an RV. This seemed like the perfect segue. I had not had this on my agenda tonight, but I do want to speak on restrictions on roosters. This is probably a little known fact, but if you do not have any roosters, a hen can select herself as the alpha and essentially become a rooster. They will crow, they will develop spurs, they will guard their flock. I invite everyone to come meet Runt if you haven't met Runt, because she doesn't live with other roosters or with any roosters, period. She actually does crow in the morning, and she's quite loud. And it's a much less appealing sound than an actual rooster. It's not a good crow. But anyway, I just wanted to make a note. You can put restrictions on roosters, but you cannot prevent the crowing. Biologically, it's going to happen anyway. I am here to speak on concerns around RVs and tiny homes. When I was going through, I read all of the documents, and I still ended up with a lot of questions. Policy ECD 18 discusses discretion to allow an increase in the number of days that an RV can be lived in per year without meeting set requirements. So I'm curious, what considerations are included? Financial need? Impact, for example, how black and gray water are stored or disposed of, or how staff or council feel about a specific individual. I'm just having a laugh, guys, anyway. But it is a legitimate question. Like, I'm curious if it's staff discretion, how those things are determined. I also noted your definition of dwelling means a building containing at least one dwelling unit for human habitation which is capable of being occupied as a home or residence. For greater clarity, this definition includes tiny houses and homes that have been manufactured to meet CSA Z241 or an equivalent standard. I have heard through the grapevine that tiny houses are required to be on a foundation under this new draft, but if your argument is that CSA Z240 standard for RVs is for custom-built RVs under the recreational vehicle definition, then would a tiny house on wheels be permitted as an RV if it meets that standard? What is the difference between an RV or a tiny house on wheels in these definitions? It seems that your definition of lawfully existing use is the same as the MGA non-conforming structure or use. Since this is the case, there may be restrictions and limitations not specified in this bylaw that are not readily apparent to residents of Modal. For example, does it lose this protected status if it's not used for that purpose for the prior 12 months? For example, what happens if someone has to leave for 2 years? They're living in an RV, it's pre-existing, they leave for 2 years to look after someone in a separate dwelling, and they need to return home to their RV. Are they going to be able to do so without a special permit? Or if an RV is irreparably damaged and needs to be replaced, is the replacement RV going to be covered under this definition? Recreational vehicle means a vehicle designed to be used for temporary accommodation for recreational uses, such as travel and vacation, or seasonal temporary habitation that has been manufactured to meet CSA Z240 RV or an equivalent standard. Does this mean if I have a manufactured RV that the standards it was built to are the equivalent standard as defined? Or does this mean that I need to hire someone to certify that it meets CSA Z240 and have any of the items brought up to that current code at the time of that application? If the latter is the case, it would be cost prohibitive and onerous for someone who is likely experiencing housing instability. There is also a separate designation for recreational vehicle parking site. What if a lot is too small to meet minimum setback requirements? My lot certainly is. The municipal-wide land use planning document should be clear. The fact that I have any questions after reading it is proof that it is not yet ready to be approved. With increased concern regarding climate change, there is an appeal to having a home on wheels because it can be moved in the event of a hurricane, fire, or other crisis. What a traditional house may survive, perhaps a tiny home or RV would not. If you require tiny homes to be on a foundation, you are in contravention of your own agenda to help Modal prepare for the impacts of climate change. Your statement of provincial interest regarding housing states that local housing needs are not being met. Your policy objectives include to help meet the housing needs of Modal residents by supporting a diverse range of housing types and housing densities, and to help ensure access to affordable and accessible housing for all income levels and various demographic groups. You talk about issues of homelessness and how they are difficult to identify until residents access shelters and other supportive services. However, a large number of residents are living in RVs, and with the rise of cost in living, there will be more. Folks are living in RVs out of financial necessity. RVs are a lifeboat for folks experiencing housing instability, and keeping that option open for them is essential. Nova Scotia's minimum wage is $17 an hour. Folks on EI are only receiving 55% of their wage. The standard household rate of income assistance in Nova Scotia for a single person living alone who rents or owns only receives $704 per month. I know this from personal experience. If I did not have my RV to live in, I would have been homeless. After this draft was circulated, I reached out to quite a few folks who also live in RVs, and they were afraid to come forward to speak because they are afraid that they will lose their housing. Do not interpret limited engagement with apathy. It is fear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Simpson?
Excuse me. I'm Bill Sampson. I'm the president and co-owner of Osprey Ridge Golf Course. We own excuse me. I had a frog in my throat. We own approximately 300 acres. 200 of it is on the golf course, and the other 100 are surrounding. Just one parcel of 25 acres and another parcel, I say, of approximately 10 acres have been zoned as future agricultural, which, you know, just totally outright, and I know I've discussed this with you guys, but it just seems ridiculous. If anybody was to walk that land, you couldn't drive a shovel or a pick through it. It's totally forest land and shale rock. There's a whole, well, when they built the golf course, they had a hell of a time getting through that area, blasting and ripping it apart. So, I mean, just on our behalf, we know, and as you guys know, we have spent a lot of money on a development plan. Like Norma would know better than anybody probably, but the land that we really have the development on is okay. It's just we bought land around us to join into that land, and I'm sure he would like the tax revenue, because we're talking approximately just that one side from Charlie Lane in about 70 acres. So I guess I would, I'll fight any change, and our company will, to have that zoned as agriculture to whatever extent we have to. But I don't think there's any need, because if some geological person is to just come out and walk the land, honest to God, it would be a joke that would be deemed agricultural land or farmland, totally. So other than that, you guys have been good so far working with you on it. I just would like, I'm speaking selfishly, I just like our piece cleaned up, only because that was the plan. Of probably spent $50,000 on the development plan already, and including septic and road plans and everything like that. And we've purchased a significant amount of land for development purpose to try to help out the community. But, and as Jeff knows, like, we have access to town water and other benefits that we hope to consolidate over the next couple of years. And in fact, if COVID hadn't hit, as Norman would know, I had permits in place before COVID, and we were getting ready to build, but then that set us back quite a bit. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. Sorry for hitting the mic. And I'll end my story. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Dory? You may want to move that bench up.
Old people and technology. My name is Barry Dory. I live in Pleasantville. When I moved back here, grew up on Nogla Road as a kid, and I own a bunch of land in behind here myself, and through companies with a couple of my school chums from the 70s and 80s. I'm the guy who wrote the 10,000-page essay that you guys have, so I thought when people saw me coming in here, I was going to be arrested promptly if I had anything else to say. I had some family drama going on today, so I wasn't able to prepare a sensible written note to condense that. The real high level, again, I'm back here after 35 years away, and looking to try to do some stuff back in Pine Grove. We built a couple of buildings back there. I have a ginormous car garage full of cars. We're putting up some storage buildings. We've got plans to go back there a little bit further to do some, commercial building storage buildings, sell or lease some lots. I've recently, in the last year, through another company, purchased a lot of acreage back there with plans to start looking at plans for, some small scale or medium-sized developments. So basically, at this stage, when I saw the brown, and again, bad on me for not knowing this, because I know this planning strategy has been going on for a long time. Again, when we heard farm and agricultural stuff, knowing the land that I own and I own with my friends, the thought of it being considered farmland or potential farmland didn't even occur to us, so I wasn't engaged in this aspect of it. And I sort of found out by mistake just last week that this was a thing by asking some questions about some other stuff. So again, that's bad on me. And I think the fact when I look around, and I've looked around a couple times, I'm astonished based on what I understand the brown or future
agricultural zone to mean and the restrictions or constraints that it appears to convey, that there's not people lined up around the block here. And like I said, I blabbed it around to people who I know own property up through West Northfield and up around Randall Lake and all this areas, which appears all a blanket of brown, which I guess means that anyone who happened to own 200 or 300 acres around Randall Lake and might intend to have sold lake lots or whatever, now can't do that because they can't traverse a brown area to get in. And again, it's I'm just surprised. I think it underscores society general and how we communicate with each other, how municipal council would communicate with the population, who's either, you know, a lot of older people here who don't necessarily look at the newspaper or find the apps, and how they are engaged. I think had a notice gone out of dear landowners were about to apply a large, not a blanket, but a large restriction on lands, a lot of lands in Lunenburg County that will restrict what you can and can't do on your property and potentially thereby significantly devaluing it. I think that would have got, hey, what the hell is going on? And then you would have had people sort of coming in as opposed to, again, we have municipal planning strategy, bylaw changes, future agricultural constraint zone sort of things like, you know what I mean? And again, that's also my fault. I mean, I should have known about this. I've been chatting with people about my sort of far off plans, and this didn't sort of cross my path. So at the moment, I have a large brown farm land area back in Pine Grove. And again, from my experience to Bill's point of gravel and rock and shale pits and swamp and other things back there, and for this brown overlay of super fertile farmland to be back there as a significant surprise to me, and made me sort of question the whole, you know, wherever the source of it was, and I think it was a 1958 survey that was done that determined that there are pockets of this dirt or that dirt in this area and that area, and then there was an overlay applied to it. Anyway, long story short, I guess it's not that short, is it? It sounds like I've rehearsed my essay, but I actually haven't. At the moment, I now own land on one chunk here, one chunk here, with plans to have done something in between, and I have a large 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 acre brown area in between that would effectively block things that I'm interested in doing. And have been planning on doing and acquiring lands. And again, I acquired additional land just this year with the plan of doing this because my understanding was that there was not to be a meaningful change that would impact what we were able to do in this particular area. So that's my concern specifically, and again, to Bill's point of it being selfishly speaking on behalf of what interests me and what affects my budget and my plans. But also just in general for, you know, landowners. I have a colleague who owns a very choice piece of land around lakes. It's been his family for 50, 60, 70 years. I don't think it's his intention to subdivide it or put 20 or 30 lake lots on it or cottage lots on it. In 5 or 10 or 20 years when he's dead and gone, maybe his kids want to. At the moment, that's all, everything for miles around is all brown zone. It appears that he would be unable to access the land or do anything with that land. And again, it's a chunk of land it juts out into a lake. I can't imagine that if we enforce an agricultural only usage on him, that the neighbors on the lake are going to be happy if he cuts down all the trees and then brings in all kinds of dirt. Is he even allowed to do that? Or can you have a farm in the middle of a lake? Is there going to be runoff of manure or dirt into the lake? We're going to kill frogs. It's going to be a disaster. I like frogs. Haven't seen one in a while, but we do like frogs. Anyway, those are my concerns, and I would really like to know, and we can follow up on this later or next week or whatever, what process there is, if any, about having some of that brown moved around. Where my land is attached to basically behind the golf course. It's very near your growth zone here. It's near some of the subdivisions and stuff that are there, so I think what I'm aiming to do is more appropriate and more valuable to the community, to your tax base, to residents who are looking for, whether it's recreational or residential or whatever activities are going on. But currently, based on what I see, I would be significantly blocked from doing any of that. So, my apologies for my lack of brevity. As a journalist by trade, and obviously didn't learn a lesson about editing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Dory. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Vino, Mr. Silver, sorry.
My name's Craig Silver, 219 Lake Road 6, Pine Grove, off Nogwa Road. I'm the colleague with the land on the lake, and it has been in my family for years, and I've spent, I don't know how much I've spent gaining access to that land, developing it, using it, building a house on it. I own land on Nogwa Road that is all brown and will be useless and worthless. Nobody's going to want to buy that. And I also have land, what has been, a shale pit for 75 years? I don't know what you're going to grow in there. But that was land purchased for maybe an early retirement and a way to make some money, developments, whatever the community might need that we can think of that could go in there, help us, help them. I don't know Mr. Wenzel over here, but I've got the same gut feeling you got since I found out about this. I don't know what my children are going to do with the land. I don't know what the rest of the people in my community are going to do with their land. It's worthless this way. No one's going to buy it. And if we can't use it and do what we bought it for, and all the time and money we have invested in it, what's my compensation? What do I get for this? Someone just come in and take it from me and tell me I can't use it? I can live on it, but I can't build a road on it. I can't sell a piece to my family. I can't sell a piece to anybody. I'm on the lake. I don't know how you're going to do agriculture on the lake. I don't know how you're going to grow anything in a shale pit. I don't know how you even come up with the map that you came up with. All the farms that have been back there for 100 years aren't even in the brown area. They're all white. And all the brown areas are swamps, bogs, lakefront properties, and shale pits. So how do we figure that that's going to be agricultural land, and what happens to the people that own it? What happens to how are we going to survive? Our money's in that. We've bought it for other reasons. It's not agricultural by no means, so we've come up with other things to do with it, and now we can't. So we've lost all our money, we've lost all our time. I have nothing to lose. It's all gone now. So what do we do? And as far as the trailers and stuff, people should live in whatever the hell they want, whatever they can afford. If somebody's got a piece of land, they own it, why can't they put a trailer on it and live in it? Whose business is it? You know? I don't care if he's got chickens, roosters, whatever. I don't care if they're howling all night. We got them up Nogwa Road all night and day. Who cares? I'm sure some of you have dogs that bark all night. Same thing, isn't it? So I just don't know how this all came about. And I got to say, if something this important we should have been notified. Not in the newspaper, not an ad on CKBW, whatever, or something on a website, people over 50 years old. We don't have time to surf websites to find all this foolishness. We don't know what's going on. Why are we going to surf and look for it? We don't. Who goes on websites just to find out what the council's talking about? You know, I'm up in the morning at 5 o'clock. I'm going to work. I get home sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night. I don't get time to surf websites. If you're going to do something like this to me, you need to send me a notice of my assessment, something I'm going to get. or put it in the mailbox. Don't just me find out from some secretary at a desk somewhere that this is going on or by accident. And there's, I don't know how many people in this community that don't know this is happening yet. They still don't know. And they're all in the Brown area. So what do we do when you do this and then all of a sudden that hits? You know? Where does the law stand on this? What protects us for this? You guys just sit in here and make a deal and vote on it and say yay, nay, and the rest of us got to suck it up? That's not how it's supposed to work. You guys were all voted in. Talk to your people. Sit in here behind the doors and do all this and then leave us with the mess. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Soar. Are there other people who wish to speak? I am required to ask this 3 times, so.
I wonder how this all came about.
Mr. Simpson, you'll have to come to the mic because we are recording this, so.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm just wondering, from what I understand, this is the only county in the province that didn't have one of these land use bylaws? Is that correct?
Do you wish to speak? Can we have one of the planners speak to this?
Yeah, so the province passed legislation requiring municipalities to have land use planning that covers 100% of the municipality. Previously, we had it around 12% of the municipality covered. So we are one of the last, probably, we're the last ones in the province to implement land use planning.
So when did this start, this, this policy to convert, to lay this on paper and say we're going to do it this way? Are we talking 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago?
Yeah, so the legislation changed in 2018, and the municipality's been working on creating the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw pretty much since 2020. And as staff mentioned earlier, this is currently at draft 3. So there was, we did some extensive public engagement last year, and we did some more this year after draft 2 was created.
Okay, so we bought that land, as you know, from the council, from this group. But I'm surprised that there's not a better mechanism to notify significant landowners about this, how things are going to change. Because, I mean, I get so many emails and texts a day, I hardly read half of them. But at the same time, there isn't, I don't even know if there is a local paper anymore. I don't know. I know in the day I built a subdivision in Middleton, and there was letters distributed. Sorry, I'm missing a tooth right now. Throughout the town or the surrounding areas of that piece of land for a proposed change to a subdivision, and to attend a meeting like this. But other than word of mouth on Friday, I would not have heard about this. So I don't know, where was it publicized? Isn't that part of the normal when you're doing land use changes?
Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Merrill? Can you answer that question?
Sure. As mentioned, we did some extensive public engagement on some of the previous drafts, which included direct mailouts.
Never received anything.
Yeah, we did postcards with the meeting dates through that engagement. And then more recently on draft 3, we did notices online. We did notices in the newspaper as well. So over the last several years, we've done we've done radio ads as well, trying to get people out. We've done notices in tax bills saying that, talking about land use planning. We've done our municipal matters, all of our newsletters. Over the last several years, there's been extensive notification, and I realize that we're not going to always reach everybody in the municipality, but the municipality has spent considerable effort trying to reach people.
But knowing, I'm just saying, I think a significant land owner in this area, especially around this village, I think somebody should almost knocked on my door or called me. But and again, to me, it was like the best kept secret going that I've heard for such a significant change. And that's mainly why that's my main point. I know my partners are working, and and I don't think we're going to have any problem changing ours back. But I'm just saying, going forward, I think there's got to be way better communication. Relying on newsletters or email or the newspapers or radio, that's history now. I don't know how. I mean, as a business person, one of our questions would always be, what's your best way of communication? And that's kind of the point I'd like to make, because I mean, I wouldn't be here if somebody that was concerned themselves didn't tell me about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishes a second go-around? Miss? Can we? Yeah, you have to come to the mic.
Not a comment, but if may I ask a question of staff, and maybe you can answer it, or maybe you can't.
You can ask to me, and if I can answer it, I'll try.
Sure thing. The new zone, the brown, I call it the brown stuff. Is there a way at this stage, I was going to ask how it was arrived at, but anyway, that's not here nor there, I guess. Is it, at this stage, is it possible to have any of the, with some logic or some justification presented from, like I said, Bill or myself or other people who have concerns, to change some of that? Because again, in my quick look at the map and where I know historically farming has done up the river up toward the Germany's and back like that, a lot of that area is traditional historical property that would have been used or suitable for agriculture, farming and stuff, and had been, and probably and still is to an extent. Why a large portion of that wasn't browned or touched, and then some areas like half of one of Bill's lot right next to his golf course, half of a 50-acre or a 60-acre or whatever it is brown, the other half is not. If he wished to develop something on the developable part, he would have to make a road across the brown part, which he's not allowed to do. And same for me. And again, where areas this close to the Osprey Ridge thing, or nearby subdivisions and stuff, where again, in theory, we do want to have development. We do need homes. We do need affordable housing. We need all that kind of stuff. Why the decision would have been made to block areas that are nearby that would be appropriate for development, and nearby and historical uses and related uses and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to blanket areas up there. And I'm not trying to throw my brown spot up on someone else's lot up there, but if it's, again, someone's got 200 or 300 or 500 acres in the back of Nineveh or New Germany and areas like that where there has been historically stuff, why none of that stuff was browned? Or if we reached a certain percentage and then you said, okay, that's enough, we don't have to do any more. So that was a long question. Basically, is it at this stage or near term, is it possible to have a justification where we could say, can we have this based on soil stuff or proximity to stuff or plans that have already sort of started but haven't reached a development agreement or proposal stage, have them either swapped out or changed?
So to try to get to the essence of your question, the point of the public hearing is to, and the submissions, is to hear the kinds of questions and concerns that have been raised by all the speakers tonight in different ways. Some on a lot, and we've heard from a number of people around the issues you're raising. So tonight, what we'll do is, when we close the hearing, is then council will have a chance to have a discussion about how we proceed from here, how are we going to respond to the concerns we've heard. So I encourage those that have commented tonight and are concerned about how we proceed with this to stay with us and hear the discussion and what we conclude from this tonight. And that's the reason for the public hearing, is for the council to hear the concerns and make a decision about how we proceed, or whether we proceed tonight, or whether we need to consider certain aspects that have been raised by people in the meeting tonight and in the submissions that we've received. Okay?
Again, to Bill's point too, about the outreach that has happened, I know that's been going on since, what, 2017 is when this started?
Yeah. Mr. Simpson, it's to
Just
speak.
one quick point, just one.
No.
Paula, can you pull up like the Osprey
We've-
part there?
You have to direct the question through me.
Oh, sorry.
If I can answer it.
Madam, I'd like to see the diagram of the Osprey zone and the adjoining piece just so I can show you, the council, what I'm talking about, and other people here, that it just doesn't make sense, just so you know.
Council members have have seen your submission.
Yes.
So that can be part of what we have for discussion later. You've now spoken the twice, so
Okay.
I think we'll take note of that in the discussion that will follow.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that hasn't spoken Mr. Wenzel, do you want to speak again?
I will make this quick. I've got my thoughts together now. I do want to extend an invitation to all council members to my woodlot. I will walk you the woodlot, bring an agricultural technician, take a soil sample, walk over the granite rock, and you tell me how good it is for agricultural land. The invitation's open, just let me know if you would.
Thank you. Anyone else that hasn't spoken that wishes to speak, or those that have to speak the second time? Okay. Mr. Vino, come forward.
I'm a little late. I thought
Yeah.
we were starting at 7.
Okay.
But, anyway.
You just give your name and your address for the record.
Name is Jonathan Vino, 483 Mossman Road, West Northfield, where I operate Balsam Investments Limited, and I'm a registered farmer with the province. I'm here to talk tonight about the new RU2 zoning for rural agricultural potential zone. I think hopefully I'm saying that right. I do not agree or approve of this new zone in the way it looks at potential farmland. Much of this potential farmland is forested woodland that has not recently or never been farmed. The new RU2 zone is based on decades-old data from the soils. Does anyone here know how much of the active farmland within the MODL this new RU2 zone captures? For myself, about 1/3 of my active farmland is within this new zone. My most valued farmland is not. My grandfather started this area in the mid-1960s, and I'm third generation to farm it. I struggle to understand how local farms that supply food to grocery stores and markets, putting food on local tables, all within the MODL, are not included in this RU2 zone. I do agree farms will be important for our future, but when I'm told that we need to save our farms, this new zone is not saving our farms. Not all of them, and it's now hindering development on The woodlands are all this land that's in this zone and not actively being farmed. I sent the planning department, mayor, councilors an email that listed a property of mine and 2 neighboring properties, all part of this new zone. These properties are not the same in the way of soils, but if you disagree with this new zoning, you will have to hire a professional to prove this old data is flawed. Another issue I see comparing sizes of properties, 9 acres versus 11 acres versus 100 acres, with this potential farmland soil classification. The 9-acre piece has no new subdivision limits. Now the 1,100 acres, even 500 acres, are limited to a maximum of 6 lots. In my situation with 35 acres affected, I have 3.5 times the minimum of 10 acres or more, but limited to the same maximum 6 lots for future development. Creating 6 lots on these properties might not be just for profit. The MODL, may and could be limiting landowners and their families in the future to enjoying this land if more than 6 lots, are needed or hoped for. When my dad passed, one of his last wishes were for his sons to each have a lot from the same area that is all potential farmland in West Northfield. Currently valued at $1.1 million of assessment on these 3 lots. Only one of them has a house for property taxes. Farmland will be important for our future, but there are areas that, may be better suited for growth within the municipality, and there may be, best areas for farmland for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? I'd ask, are there any other people to address council? And for the third and final time, I'd ask if any members of the public wish to speak on the amendments and the plan. Is now an opportunity to do that. I don't see anyone coming forward, so I just want to take a minute to recap the steps that we'll take now. Municipal Council will meet following the hearing to discuss what we've heard at the meeting and also to consider the submissions we've received. If Council deems it to be advisable to repeal and replace the original municipal planning strategy, Council will conduct second reading tonight and could potentially approve the documents that have been circulated. And then they are forwarded to the Department of Municipal Affairs for review. And the final decision does lie with the provincial government. And if for whatever reason they feel we have not complied, they can send our document back for reconsideration and further work. If Municipal Affairs does approve the documents, a notice of approval is inserted in the local newspaper advising of the adoption of these documents. And the date that the public notice appears in the paper is the date the documents become effective. So with that, I encourage you to continue to stay with us and hear the discussion. But for the public hearing, I now declare this public hearing closed. And we just need to, we'll just take 5 minutes to reset our video system and yeah, and council will not be discussing this during the break. It'll all come back to the floor for discussion. We'll come back at 7:04.